that way.
Yeah. And I tell my students that, I'm training a different thing. I'm training a different part. I agree that people should carry, everyone should have their liberty to carry and do what they're going to do. But I do think that as a woman, you need to understand that you're bringing a weapon into the fight
Mm-hmm.
100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you don't know hand-to-hand combat or how to retain that weapon, then it's going to be used against you.
Which I'm very grateful that you brought up that point, because a constant debate is women's self-defense and personal protection. The strategies and priority up front. Is it the
Mm.
physical side or is it tool oriented? And I didn't want to come up with my own because I already have my answer to that. But I'm very grateful that you brought up the answer that I was leaning toward anyways, because yeah, I don't want to be a man telling a woman how to defend themselves.
Well, and I think that there's such an important role that men play in self-defense, but I also
Mhm.
think that we're, as women, we should be right there on the forefront too, to take up, to teach and train half of the human population that's out there, when we have so many men coming into such a delicate place and a vulnerable place, especially for women, like you said earlier, empathy, spirituality, the warrior mindset, but also
Mhm.
like making sure that you're trained, trained in trauma responses and everything.
Yep, because I mean the physical considerations alone from a man teaching a woman how to defend themselves physically and with a weapon. Okay,
Hmm.
there's just
Hmm.
some physical considerations that men just don't understand because we're
Right.
not built that way. So when it comes to a woman defending herself with a weapon, what do you
Mhm.
think are some of those? What is the hierarchy of tool usage for a woman, particular for the perspective of personal protection and self defense?
I think it just differs a tiny bit in the sense that we get away with a little bit more,
Yes,
just
yes,
speaking candidly.
yeah.
If we're assaulted, then, and we kill the assailant, it's a little bit more acceptable than if a man to a man, right? So my hierarchy goes pretty quickly
Hmm.
as my conditions change. The moment that, it's space and time, it's awareness. It starts with awareness, right?
Yes.
When you're not aware, then the next part is like you're kind of just it's that condition orange, right? Something's wrong. Maybe you're not acting on it yet. But something's wrong. At that moment is when I am preparing. I'm
Hmm.
not waiting till condition red or condition black to make myself ready. I will be ready to pull my sidearm at that point if I
Hmm.
need to, or create the distance that I need
Hmm.
to make sure that I can pull that firearm. You have to be tactical and you have to be calculated. And when you're standing even in a room of people, you don't know who's getting too close to you for what reason. You know
Yep,
what I mean? Because if someone is getting close to you, maybe it is to grab your weapon. We
that is
just
correct.
don't we just don't know intention, right? We just don't know people's intentions. And so we have to prepare for all intentions.
Because the enemy has a say in combat, just does. And
Unfortunately, they do. They do.
yeah,
Higher level predators, and like Tim said, like you have to delve deep into the mindset of the the murderous and the worst type of people in order to understand them effectively to defend yourself against them. It's wild. You don't learn peace by avoiding conflict.
no, you don't. As much as we would like to, we don't.
No.
So going back to the tool specific, just to talk about hierarchy and priority, because I'll rapid fire some stuff here. Tool priority and preference. Firearms, number one. Would you agree? What are your thoughts on edged weapons for women's use?
Um, Again, know that you're bringing a weapon into the fight 100% of the time. Um, and know that you are at an inherent disadvantage, even
Hmm.
with that weapon close to you, unless it's drawn and up. I, you know what I mean? Like it is as
Yep.
good to me as it is pointed at the person that's trying to assault me.
Okay.
So if as long as that's there, then that's my thing. But you are your first line of defense. You said it yourself. So my first line of defense is hands,
Hmm.
hands, always hands, de-escalation, You know, we don't look at people's eyes like we tend to think. We look at people's hands. All
Yep.
right, the first thing that we tend to see. And so using your hands to de-escalate or to even get that first shot off
Hmm.
so that you can create distance, or you can get out, or you can draw your weapon, like, you have to know that stuff. And you also have to understand the space and time stuff, like you said, and you also have to understand the hierarchy, which for me is personally hands
Yep.
first.
Hands are closer, and I mean, action is faster than reaction.
Hmm.
So there's that. Okay, another tool. Impact weapons, say like tactical flashlight. What do you think?
I mean, I would suggest, why are you carrying it? Are you out and about? Like, yeah, then I think that you should carry things that make you feel safe.
Yeah.
But you should have them utilizable. You should have them utilizable at the given time that you're not feeling safe, not
Hmm.
tucked away in your pocket.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Knives, like you asked earlier, I think are um it's dangerous. It's an edged weapon, and most of the time when you're stabbing, you're gonna cut yourself too.
Hmm.
So you have to be aware that with a knife, you're probably getting stabbed. And so bringing a knife into the fight is always problematic for me,
Hmm.
because I still trust women with the tools that I give them to be able to avoid the conflict so effectively that they never have to result to, should I bring the gun? Should I bring the knife? Should I bring, what weapon
Yep.
should I bring? Should I bring the pepper spray? You know, if you're going out at night, bring a flashlight. If you're going out
Hmm.
into the woods, like, know the advantages and the disadvantages. You know what I mean? And I
My
think that, no, go ahead.
No, I agree with your line of thought. My only point with like impact tools like flashlights is if you could beat them with the flashlight, that means you could beat them with your hands because it
Oh,
just
and I
adds
totally
impact.
agree.
Because if
Yes,
you can't
that,
fight with your hands, you can't fight with a flashlight.
yeah, improvised weapons, like
Mm.
using your environment, all that stuff, like using a stick. I it's not that I tell people don't grab anything. Your hands are going to be your first thing ever. Your first line of defense to me is going to be contextual. It's
Hmm.
whatever the immediate danger is. First thing we take care of is the immediate danger. Second principle we have is simultaneous, or as close to simultaneous counter strike,
Hmm.
because it doesn't matter what you hit them with, it matters that you hit them.
Yep.
And it matters that you hit them a lot. And with a weapon, especially a knife, most of the time, all I have to do is punch them in the face. And it's hard to stab somebody while they're just fucking raging on your face, punching you in the face.
Yep.
So with that being said, for women, if you have a knife and you're expecting to get punched in the face from a violent assault, you're probably, like you said, not even able to utilize that weapon. You need to go to you need to go to back to the principle of, what is the immediate danger? How do I defend that? What is my simultaneous counter strike? How do I reset that loop?
Hmm.
You know, how do I get them thinking about something other than the action that they're engaged in, which is attacking you?
Yep. Because cognitive disruption, to use a technical term, cognitive
Yes.
disruption is a phenomenal break in tempo. Because when you impact somebody in the face repeatedly, they're not thinking. They're thinking about that immediate danger, as you're saying. And a lot of people, especially within the knife community, they rely so much on the flashy knife disarms through manipulation or destruction. But
Mm,
there's the other aspect. You can just knock a dude out or knock a person out. And then, in
yeah.
regards to like the size mass displacement issues from men to women, you're dealing with 200-pound man versus 110-pound woman.
Yeah.
200-pound man knocks woman in the face. She's not going to be, I hate to say it, but the likelihood, even from a okay, 200-pound man
Hmm.
squaring off against a 140-pound man getting punched in the face, the reality of them being able to actuate this tool is going to be very
Yeah.
difficult because of the
Right. And so
cognitive
we're talking
disruption.
close. Yeah, we're
Yep.
talking about close space, which is also the only way knife is effective.
Yep. That
So
is correct.
you have two opposing problems here. Either your knife is drawn and you're actively using it in the space that you have, which is none,
Hmm.
or you're not having it drawn to show somebody, or you're brandishing. I don't get brandishing, but you're brandishing it to try to scare somebody away, or whatever you may be doing with that.
Yep.
And so you have these hierarchies of when and where and how and why you should pull the weapon. For everything that I have to think about for every consideration that I have to make for that weapon, I'm slowing myself down by 50 freaking percent. And I also am like taking up my whatever left cognitive ability that I have, focusing on one tool.
Mm-hmm.
When I have tons of tools in my tool belt that I could use instead of just the most obvious one.
Yep. Again, fighting is simple. Okay.
Punch them a lot, punch them in the face, grab a brick, smash them in their head, go
because
home.
violence is simple, but being creatively violent and crossing that line is not easy. So
that's where art comes in, like you said. That's where the art comes in. That's where the spirituality comes in. That's where, like taking it and using it as a way of life versus and a warrior way of life, realizing that it is directly attached to a warrior way of life, and it's too bad that higher level predators we find sometimes in our wake. But this is one of those things that they're no longer higher level predators to me.
Yep, agreed.
Because I'm just as high a level predator, but I use my intentions for good. You know,
it's the argument between the sheepdog and the wolf. So
yeah.
One last bit about the knife. This often gets me in trouble in my Filipino martial arts community, but the very basic principle: if I can touch you, I can cut you, and I can kill you. However, you can do the same to me.
Yes.
Because the community gets so fixated on the tool when the fact is the tool is not magic. You have to be able to fight, and the tool isn't going to do the fight for you.
Exactly. So, every tool is a secondary. Yep. Every tool, every like extra force multiplier, right? And you got to think that like no one goes to a fight to get their ass kicked, right? So you either have a gun, stick, knife, 3 friends, anything not to get your ass kicked. So you always assume that there's a weapon, but to be the person to bring a weapon, you can't help it. You're going to fixate on it, because what if they take it? Now you're in a lot of trouble, even though disarming a knife is incredibly difficult.
Yep. That falls. So my categories of F's, you got fight, flight, freeze. Okay. I use failure beyond your control, and then you're just fucked because you just you've got a meteor coming, you stepped across the road, you got ran over, you kick in a door, and there's a dude with a dishka behind a fortified position. Regardless of how skillful you are, the universe and the enemy has a say in this. And this is where like this idea about fighting fair, this is no one gets me in trouble. Fighting fair is a fallacy. Okay?
Yeah.
Would you say that is more applicable from a woman's perspective dealing with male violence toward them?
Oh, yeah, because whenever I'm fighting, even if I'm sparring, I am practicing self-defense. Whereas a man can generally fluidly transition between the two. Either they're being attacked for their training or they're doing the attacking. Women, even if I'm attacking a man for the technique of the sake of the technique, it's not as impactful. It's still not as impactful as it would be if, a 200 something pound man were to do it. So we're still our what you're experiencing with us trying to choke you is different, and what we're experiencing trying to spar you or to protect ourselves against you is completely different, So I totally agree.
Well, it's the simple reason why in combat sports we have weight classes. So the problem I've ran into being a Filipino man is I am a foot shorter than every man possible. So all my fighters have been over a foot to 2 feet taller than me. Now, what I deal with is I'm also like very stout, so I sit comfortably at like 250 pounds and 5'6". Okay. So I'm dense. The problem I still run into is a size mass issue because some of my fighters, to include one of my pro fighters, was a gentleman who is 6'3" and like 300 pounds. And no matter what, if he sits on me, I'm screwed. Even fight strength, size, capability. There's a size mass issue. So it's not just, you can't fight physics, not easily at least.
No, and you can't fight, like you said, the universe. Even Navy SEALs come home in body bags.
Yep.
It's not going to be a fair fight, and it's not a fair fight. Uh,